Thanks, Michelle. Welcome to the March 27th meeting of the Middle Smithfield Township Board of Supervisors. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. And under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Just make sure we have. And then okay, is there a motion to approve the agenda and any amendments?
Motion. Second.
Any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Report, Pat, can we please have a report on executive?
Minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion. Second.
Any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Pat, could we have a report on executive session, please?
Sure. Board met in executive session immediately before this evening's meeting to discuss ongoing litigation and legal privileged discussions. No decisions were made, no votes were taken.
Thank you. Is there any public comment on non-agenda items? Anyone, including on Zoom? No? Okay. Announcements, just a couple. So April 1st, April Fool's Day is also Founder's Day in Monroe County. So we've got some flyers over on the side, and from 10 to 2, Monroe County is having a Founder's Day celebration. You can visit get a tour of the courthouse. Amy Lizer from the Historical Association will present a history of Monroe County. And you'll have banner signers and all of that. So you guys can enjoy yourselves at that. We also have some upcoming events from our Person of the Year and finalists. So we've got a flyer over on the side. And it'll be included with the minutes also, and we encourage you to pick one up. The first thing that will happen is Saturday, April 5th at the Community and Cultural Center. There'll be a paint and sip for 1,000 pink lights. So that's Betty Rickey, one of the finalists for Person of the Year. And also Saturday the 5th is also another fine event, the Township's Egg Hunt, right?
Yeah.
And that's all I have for announcements right now, unless the board has anything else to add. Okay. Michelle, is there any correspondence?
No correspondence.
All right, and then that brings us to the bid opening for the spring and fall cleanup.
We're trying something new here. It's pen bid, everything's
My
electronic.
favorite expression, we're trying something new.
So just so you're aware, I mean, all the bids this time are online. So this is for our dumpsters for cleanup in the spring and the fall. We already know at the time of end of bid, which was 2 o'clock today, we only have one bidder. We have not opened it. That's what Michelle's about to do now.
Okay.
And she's sharing screen.
All right, so we are opening the bids. Let's do the how to happen. Okay.
If you go to the information, right?
The requested information here. It's in here. So it was. These items. And And then I think it was sworn.
versus low-tech envelopes and,
Well, I mean, essentially, I mean, just explain a little bit what she's doing that. When we do it through pen bid, all the documents required, bonds or insurances, certifications, et cetera. It's a requirement that you meet all that criteria before you're allowed to submit a bid. So it does save us a lot of time reviewing bids. We know that everything that was required is part of their bid. Once you've met all those requirements, then you can submit a dollar amount and hit send. So where we are now, hopefully Michelle can see if I can get.
Yeah, it's, Markey roll-off container was the only bidder.
Right.
Okay, and it is, looks as though, because it's for both sites,
Right.
so everything is included. Looks like it's, $56.84. So that would be for, tons.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay. All right, well, I would first make a motion to accept the bid.
any comments or questions? Yes,
I have a question. What's the process to invite bidders? So, maximize the best possible outcome.
Well, I mean, it is sent out to the Pocono Record, every bid opportunity sent out to the Pocono Record for local. And bid also, fans it out to subscribers. So if there is a vendor in the area, they would have to be a subscriber to Penn Bid. It's pretty commonplace in the commercial market, townships. He did show us, by way of example, a number of townships that are already using it. So it does have a lot of features that I think will benefit the township as well. For instance, if we wanted to build a pickleball field someplace, you can actually go in here and see what prior bidders were for pickleball courts. So you can sort of build your budget based on actual numbers. I mean, as best you can. I mean, you have to, give yourself some latitude, but it is, I think it's a broader area to cover more vendors, because a lot of vendors, quite honestly, the Pocono Record, I think their circulation is down to about 50 a day. I don't know.
did we post this on our website too?
Yeah,
It'll get printed, it'll get exported onto an Excel spreadsheet.
the results, but she's saying,
No, I'm saying like when we advertised. the
It
bid
is,
opening,
yeah.
Right, and then was it posted on Facebook?
I
don't know about Facebook.
I think Chris does Facebook and the website. He
Yeah.
posts it.
And we also had a list of people that asked to be included in like a text notification for.
Those
Text My
aren't
Gov.
done because it is advertised. They have to go,
Yeah.
they're gonna have to go through Penn Bid.
Right.
And we can put something out there, maybe on the website.
And then do
now,
a text
and
my
say,
go, yeah,
From here on out, we're using Penn
Right.
Bid, please register.
yeah.
you got to take the vote.
Any other, excuse me,
Go ahead.
any other questions or comments? Okay, all in favor?
All right,
Aye.
I'll make a motion to award the contract to Markey, subject to attorney review.
Any comments or questions? All in favor?
All right,
Aye. Okay. So that was exciting.
I'm glad there's only one bidder.
That was exciting for-
I mean, just saying.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, let's see, we'll wait for, there we go. Okay, and that brings us to the other exciting things. We have proposed, we have a public hearing for proposed ordinance to amend the volunteer service credit program. So this is proposed ordinance 247, which is amending Middle Smithfield's code chapter at 176 taxation. This is the volunteer service credit program. so that qualified volunteer firefighters in EMS can get a volunteer tax credit. But Pat had noticed, it came to his attention that we needed to add Marshalls Creek Fire Company EMS because they have a volunteer ambulance service, and Lehman Pike EMS to the list of eligible entities. So I will make a motion to adopt ordinance 247.
Second,
Any,
Well,
so we want to do the whole hearing?
yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
so.
I was so excited.
Make a motion to open the hearing.
Second, comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
So like that indicated, this is an ordinance that simply takes the existing code of ordinance section for the volunteer service credit program in the township, and it adds Marshalls Creek Fire Company EMS and Lehman Pike EMS to the list of eligible entities in section 176-51C. Are there any comments from the public?
I just wanted to clarify that those are volunteers who live within Middle Smithfield.
Good point.
Correct.
Correct.
And who are qualified, they meet the qualifications. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, we can close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second,
Comments or questions? All in favor?
aye,
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance 247.
second again,
Comments or questions? All in favor?
aye.
Aye. Okay, so that now brings us to the public hearing for ordinance number 248.
I wouldn't read
Excuse
it.
me?
I wouldn't even read it.
Okay, I'll make a motion to open the hearing.
Second,
Comments or questions? All in favor?
aye,
So the short form of this is we wanted something a little bit more robust to help us enforce the nuisance ordinance, the excessive noise part of the nuisance ordinance. So our zoning officer had given us some pointers on that, and Pat had put this together, and I will turn it over to Pat to explain it in more complicated terms.
So no, I mean, the board likely recalls if you kick this around for a couple of meetings in the past couple of months. And what this does is it adds a new Article 3, to Chapter 136 nuisances specific to noise nuisances. It's a standalone noise nuisance ordinance. It provides for certain limitations on the decibel readings for certain noises in certain districts. And it also provides for some more subjective limitations on noise coming from properties. And it also provides for exceptions associated with certain noises. The one piece of this that I've mentioned before, if you move forward with adopting this ordinance this evening, the next step will be to make sure that your zoning ordinance is revised to be
Right.
consistent with this. Because if you recall, currently without this, the only noise restrictions that you have are contained within your zoning ordinance, so you want to make sure that the two are consistent. But unless there's any specific questions for me from the board on this proposed ordinance, I think you can open up to the public if there's any questions from the public. So with that, are there any
Yeah,
comments or questions from the public?
So this is only for freestanding places, this is not for HOAs, because they have their own guidelines.
Yeah, if an HOA has their own noise restrictions, they don't override ours. But the more, in essence, the more restrictive one is gonna be the one that's gonna really, govern. Meaning, if our noise ordinance doesn't capture what the HOA wants to restrict, if the HOA has something on the books, that's gonna control and it's gonna be enforceable. But the township can't enforce the HOA's regulations. The
Right.
township can only enforce its ordinance.
And what decibels are we looking at? Do we have a number?
So there's a table in the proposed ordinance, and for the receiving land use at the lot line of a residential use in a residential zoning district, when measured outside, from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. Except for Sundays, Christmas Day, Thanksgiving Day, New Year's Day, Easter, Labor Day, and Memorial Day, it's 60 dB. And for 9 p.m. to 7 a.m., plus all those holidays and Sundays that I just went through, it would be 50 dB. And that's for a residential lot in a residential area. A residential use in a commercially or industrially zoned district from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m., except for those holidays and Sundays, 55 dB. And 9 p.m. to 7 a.m. Plus those holidays and Sundays, 55 dB.
Okay, so what about these bars that we have, that they have that outdoor venues and they play music?
I'm sorry?
What about the bars that we have in that outdoor venues where they play music in the summertime?
They would,
Because I'm thinking of, Petruzio's and the one across from, Dollar Tree, on, 209.
Dollar Tree is not Middle Smithfield.
Huh?
Dollar Tree is not Middle Smithfield. That's up here.
Okay, the one right by the little nail salon and all of that.
186.
The one right by that gold gas station, right before the old Mountain View
It's not Middle
golf
Smithfield.
course.
It's not Middle
Yeah,
Smithfield.
that's Smithfield.
Okay, so what Petruzio's is Pike.
That's,
He's in Middle Smithfield.
that, yeah,
Trying to think of where there's residential versus right there.
Who's it- yeah.
The closest would be. Yeah.
because it's from a residential use at a lot line, so
So the
it could be
residential
noisy
around
next to
corner of
another.
Turkey Hill. There's houses there. You're not that I'm trying to enforce it, I'm just.
No, no.
Sure.
Thinking about that. No, good. That's one we'll have to take a look at. I'm sure if we can find that.
Yeah, I mean, they have to be pretty loud to get to those residences.
Yeah, 'cause we have that lodge there,
Right.
right across from Turkey Hill, so that's residential.
Mhm.
And there's houses back there.
Right.
Well, and Pocono, the former Pocono Palace is across the street from Fenical Lane, which has residential
Right.
uses, so the noise would have to be measured at that lot line.
They have
And
some
just,
next to-
we had reduced some of the, decibel levels, so just to give an idea of what these mean. 60 decibels would be a normal conversation. 50 decibels, which is 9 p.m. to 7 a.m. is a quiet office. And 55 decibels would be between a conversation and a quiet office. So, and the purpose of us putting together or requesting collaboration between the zoning officer and legal and putting this together is to allow the zoning office better tools to enforce this. Because previously there was nothing there to govern something like a continuous use, like a very loud piece of equipment or loud music. I think that was one of the issues Sean had, the zoning officer had enforcing, because we didn't have something like that. And was the intent behind this. Yes, sir.
How and by whom would the decibel reading be expected to take place?
Well, there's
Does the township
There's a
own
port-
decibel readers?
there's a portion in here that talks about training that must be taken by the enforcement officer who does it. So that would be the zoning code enforcement officer that would do it.
And the township
And
has
has to, yes,
decibel.
yes.
At those times, what happens at certain times, they're not always available.
But it may
That's
not,
a good
it
question.
may not be the zoning enforcement officer. That's one thing we talked about in budget time this year, was possibly hiring a person for weekends, either on call or a specific shift for looking.
Except the download from the cell phone, there is a thing that you can measure if you use a cell phone. If the township accept that,
no.
no.
I mean, so we're talking about decibels. So if the township were gonna use an enforcement regarding the level of the decibels, it would have to be by an enforcement officer, it would have to be measured by a certified or licensed enforcement officer of the township. And the equipment that would have been used would have had to be calibrated within a certain period of time. But there are other provisions in here, like I said, that are a little bit more subjective. For instance, and the copy I have, it cut off every other page, but so we have loudspeakers, amplifiers, playing, using, operating, and permitting the playing, use, and operation of any radio receiving set, musical instruments, so on and so forth. So there are certain provisions that are a little less subjective and more subjective regarding that. It always references in such a manner as to cause annoyance to a person as defined in the article. Oh yeah, those are. So I guess what I'm saying is it doesn't necessarily always have to be a measured dB decibel level reading. There are other avenues allowed for within this ordinance to allow for certain enforcement.
Yes,
Would
sir.
the ordinary way in which this would be implemented, that a homeowner would, you think there's noise coming from either a business or residents nearby that's too loud, they could call the township zoning officer would appoint an enforcement officer to go out with a decibel reader to listen to, see if it's loud. If the timing works for that, is that how?
In a
Because
perfect,
you don't have anybody roaming around listening.
No.
right, in a perfect world, that's how it would work. If it's 2 AM in the morning and it's a short-term rental, there's supposed to be a person on hand that's a contact. But well, first of all, we just did an ordinance for a noise monitor there, so that the owner of the short-term rental, before it even gets too bad, he gets an alert, just like you would get an alert on your phone that your, tank is low, or, there's your temperatures are hot in your home. So in a perfect world, it would work the way you said it, and it works the way Mark described it. If it's 2 AM on a Saturday.
Yeah, what I will say is noise ordinances are not the easiest to enforce. So I hope you're not sitting here thinking, oh, great, I'm never gonna have to complain about noise again. That's not how this is gonna work. A lot of municipalities have these, but they're not easy to enforce. It's not gonna solve the problem, but it'll help. It gives the township something.
Well, also as a standalone, this gives us a little more.
Correct, and what I said before, the only noise restrictions the township currently has is in the zoning ordinance. So in the past, when the township were to enforce anything with respect to noise, it would have to go through an enforcement notice under the zoning ordinance, under the MPC. They could appeal that, go to the zoning hearing board, which is a whole long drawn out process. This is proposed to be a standalone ordinance, which, if they violate it, it could be cited, and if they wanted to appeal it, it would go before the district magistrate.
And I would also say, just about John, that this is also similar to Smithfield's ordinance. So like we had said at budget time, if we were to hire someone, we try to split it with Smithfield, because you're not gonna hire somebody and have them just sit here on Saturday and Sunday waiting for a phone call. So if you can share the wealth and honestly be dual position, if you will, it would work out. And there's some logistics we have to work out. But we did budget this year to implement something like that starting May 1. So this is pretty timely.
Yeah, and when we put this together, the idea was to have it fairly consistent with Smithfield, specific to the decibel levels, to make sure that there was consistency between the two.
I saw John's first and
I was
then,
gonna say, so this is all residential, and it's homes, properties, anything where any noise can be coming from?
Township wide. Now, the decibel levels vary depending upon where, we're at.
How about vehicles? I mean, obviously the
Yes,
vehicles are on
there
property,
is something in here on
Yeah.
vehicles.
but a lot of times the vehicles are on property, so I mean, cars going by all the time, boom, boom, boom.
Oh, somebody who doesn't have a muffler driving in the
Yes.
neighborhood. Yeah,
Motorcycles driving by.
yeah.
Yeah, but how you, I mean,
I think it's all just music. and that thing.
If you can catch them with your
Yeah.
decibel meter.
Mhm.
So what I said before, the subjective piece of this, there is a provision, it says exhaust from any stationary internal combustion engine that creates a loud or explosive noise because it is not discharged through a muffler or other preventative device. So I think what you're referring to is sometimes people, they do adjustments. I'm not gonna pretend to be a mechanic, but they do adjustments to their muffler, so it's really loud going down the street.
Here you also
Race car.
have that.
right,
Read
yeah,
that.
Repairing, rebuilding, modifying, testing, or operating any vehicle as defined in this article in such a manner as to cause annoyance to a person as defined in this article across a real property boundary from the source of the noise. So again, there's some tools in here that the township can use, but it's not gonna eliminate noise in the township. It'll help, but it's a common, pain for many municipalities across the state. And this is just one tool that I guess we're gonna try to use in those materials.
And then would you read C as well? Just so everybody hears that part.
Sure.
And how are you going to disseminate this information in the community? Because it's all fine and good that we vote and everything is here and you go put it nice and evenly away. How are the people out there going to know we have a noise ordinance?
It's been advertised for a public hearing this evening and you guys are here listening. But is there anything legally requiring this township to send out a mailer to everyone to let them know, hey, by the way?
Can they just put it on the app? Yeah, I mean, on your website?
Well, it's gonna be, it'll ultimately be added to the code of ordinances.
Okay,
And in the summer newsletter.
yeah. Cause I can see, oh, well, we didn't know.
That
Like
will
any good ordinance
that will work once.
or more, it's only as good as, you know, if it's
Be
enforced.
agreed.
But you can't enforce every ordinance, I mean, you don't have it there and if somebody breaks it, you know, or infringes it.
Well, C covers a lot of the music things.
Which we didn't have that before.
Loudspeakers, amplifiers, playing, using, operating, or permitting the playing, use, or operation of any radio receiving set, musical instrument, phonograph, loudspeaker, sound cast upon, or amplifier, or other machine or device for the producing or reproducing of sound which is cast upon the public street for the purpose of commercial advertising or attracting the attention of the public to any building or structure, except in the course of an approved legitimate business activity or auction sale. So I think there's a lot of language here, and like Pat said, when we just had the zoning ordinance, it was, I mean, when you look at that and the time that it takes to go through the zoning ordinance to get anybody to understand, it's been months and months. This should happen pretty quickly. If it's a flagrant offender. To your point, they do it once. They didn't know, okay, but strike two is you're out. So,
Ed, you had a question?
I think there might be a distinction between long-term and short-term noise, because, you know, somebody that's playing speakers, you know, loud music hours at a time is one thing. But, you know, if I have a friend that comes to visit me every couple of days in a Black Hawk helicopter, you know, that's pretty loud, but it's, you know, it's only short-term, so.
Well, actually, I had the loud music in my neighborhood. It was concert volume, believe it or not, Ed. I couldn't believe it, that somebody had a sound system that was that loud coming out of their house, only to find out, wow, it ended in a real hurry. That's because he drove away. And he was in the next neighborhood over, and he was that loud. I just couldn't believe somebody could sit in a vehicle with that kind of volume.
209, 5 times, 6 times a day.
But now we know that Ed has an unpermitted helipad.
Yes.
I was gonna say, we haven't even gotten to this. You haven't even gotten to the Pocono Palace helipad yet.
Well, I mean, in a serious note, that could be an issue with Pocono Palace. If they want to propose a helipad and it's close to a residential area. You took it off. Oh, you took it off, okay.
That be yours.
All right, any other comments or questions?
I have a question.
Yes,
So,
sir.
say for instance, someone's celebrating like a graduation, right, and they hire a band, say for a few hours, or they bring DJ in a residential area that's not part of the community. So they could, their neighbor could complain, then call the police or call the township, and then if the party got ended, they'd ask them to stop playing music. Is that?
I think it's just a volume, right, it's just a volume, I mean, I think, you know, if you have a band, I mean, perhaps lower the amps or whatever. This way it's not intrusive on your neighbors, I
And
mean,
face the speakers towards your own.
Yeah.
house.
I invite your neighbor.
Well, 60 decibel is pretty, that seems to be, low.
It is.
You
At the
you would
lot
go
line.
above that pretty quickly, so, I
right,
mean, to me, it's just common sense, obviously, I
Agreed.
don't wanna do it
Agreed.
all, it's past 10 o'clock or 11.
Invite your neighbors
Invite your neighbor.
Always
to your
let
party.
your neighbors know whenever you have a.
And if
So
I'm
it
old,
is, yeah, and invite, so there is some controversy, that's the best way to be a neighbor. Even when
Good
you-
question, though, good question.
Why, you know, only because I don't think I would want residents to feel as though their rights just to be able to celebrate.
Right.
And to be, you know, curtailed, but still, I think it's definitely needs to be addressed. My neighbor behind me, he was going to 12 o'clock, really super loud, blaring out behind me, so this was last summer. He had 2 consecutive events, and I didn't say anything, but I'm in a private community, but in the future I probably will, you know, but I can see how it could be pretty annoying.
right.
Any other questions or comments, either on?
And so what are the penalties?
Yeah. That's what I'm-
Well, the penalties, the second-class township code does restrict within reason as to what the penalties can be. So the penalties for violation of this ordinance be punishable by a minimum fine of not less than $500 and a maximum fine of not more than $1,000, plus costs of prosecution, so on and so forth. And then when a second and or subsequent violation is committed by the same person and or on the same property within any 12-month period, the fine shall be double the amount of the previous fine up to a maximum fine of $1,000. But keep in mind, that's what the ordinance says. 9 times out of 10, we have to take this before a district magistrate. And the district magistrate could say, this is your warning, or they could issue a $50 fine. There's. No other questions or comments from public?
Can you hear me, Annette? Can you
Yes,
hear
ma'am.
me? Okay, it's Bonnie Youngfer. I just have one question, okay? So, no problems with short-term rentals at the moment, but if it was a short-term rental, which has its own, like if they get 2 strikes, they don't get their license. Is it still going to have to be that the zoning officer has to be there and measure the decibels? Or
Yeah,
is,
it doesn't matter if it's a short-term rental or a single-family dwelling unit, it doesn't matter. This is a noise ordinance that governs the entire township, regardless of.
Okay,
it being a short-term rental.
so if it is on a weekend, which they mainly are, you're not going to get a zoning officer out there. So therefore, you're never going to get the noise monitor saying that they have to get one because they've gotten complaints about it. Or is it just a complaint and they have to get a noise monitor?
Are you asking at what point does the noise monitor for a short-term rental kick in?
Yes, does it have to be measured by the zoning officer for decibels?
The 2 credible complaint. I don't have it memorized, but I believe the ordinance says 2 credible complaints for short-term rentals. That's what, and I think Bonnie's asking
This
what is it?
ordinance doesn't have anything to do with that.
Yes. I think Bonnie knows
Separate question.
that this is separate than that, but I believe she's asking what's a credible noise complaint?
Another subject for another.
Okay,
So that's subject to that I get. Okay. Videos, all that kind of stuff may help with that, but it doesn't have to be by a decibel. I mean, if they can hear boom, boom music at 2 o'clock in the morning on a video, I think
So
that,
that's a
Different.
separate and distinct ordinance.
Right.
okay. So it wouldn't have anything to do with a zoning officer coming to take care of any of that.
The ordinance we're talking about tonight is a new noise nuisance ordinance. It's a standalone ordinance. That, I mean, whatever enforcement officer is of the township enforcing it, that's who would enforce it. Doesn't necessarily have to be the zoning officer.
Okay.
And if, like Mike had mentioned, we hire this person, whether they're on call or they're maybe specific hours on the weekend. Obviously, if they drive by a fire that somebody has a bonfire in their backyard, they're gonna note that as well. I mean, we're not gonna put police officer out there 24/7. But if the person's on call and they're responding to a noise ordinance violation or something else and they see a violation, I mean, I would expect that person would be reporting it to the zoning officer.
Yeah, it's nice to know that if something happens, you have someone to say it to. I don't know how to say that. I had that instance on Christmas Eve, I got lucky. The girl ended up sending somebody out. But I think that would be a noise that would be under this ordinance because it's a continuous noise that continues throughout hours. Like, how do you get that to stop in this township if something like that happens again? And even if it's just a homeowner, what do you do? If somebody has an alarm going off constantly and you don't know who lives there, you don't know what do you do?
Talking about alarm and somebody's.
Well, if you're talking about an alarm, I mean, that would either be fire or burglary, so that would be state police.
It's a swimming pool alarm for a pool gate.
Well, I mean, that would trigger, maybe perhaps someone fell into the pool, so you'd still call the state police.
It could be a danger.
Yeah, you just do a check.
Yeah.
Just like.
I wouldn't wait for a zoning officer, I mean, God forbid.
That's not for the zoning, that's for the.
Yeah, that's state police.
All right, I'll call them next time because most of the time they don't want to come out. So, but I'll do that.
I think they come out a lot more than they get credit for.
Are there any other questions or comments from the public?
Just want to say that the board of directors of Lake of the Pines had this exact same discussion a few years ago, and it was just as difficult both to define the problem and figure out how to enforce it. So what are you gonna do? You do what you can and you hope some of it's solved.
I hope you have good neighbors.
Well, yes.
That helps if you have good neighbors.
It's better to have it, not need it, than need it, and not have it.
any other comments or questions? Okay, I believe we're ready to vote.
You gotta close the hearing.
So is there a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion.
Second.
Comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So, Mr. Zoning,
Make a motion to approve the proposed ordinance. I have to read the whole thing to you, Michelle?
248.
248.
Second, any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great. That brings us to the treasurer's report.
Okay, motion for our general account, $97,814.28.
Second.
Comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye. From our sewer account, $33,146.10.
I'll second. Any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye. And a motion from our EMS account, $27,500.
Second.
Any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, solicitors report.
Thank you. The first item on my report is the Raj Investments conditional use decision. As the board is likely aware, we had a hearing, actually 2 hearings on the conditional use application. There is a draft decision prepared and provided to the board to consider before this evening's meeting. However, we did just receive a time extension from the applicant. I believe the legal counsel for the applicant is here this evening, granting the board an extension of time to act on the decision in the application until April 15, 2025. So at this point, I don't know if Charlie has anything to add, but I think the board can either, if you're prepared to act on the draft written decision as written, or if you'd like to give Charlie and I an opportunity to speak following this evening's hearing or meeting and wait to act on this decision until your next meeting, which would be before Michelle, right? It would be before April 15th.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd like to have an opportunity, I think, for a work session with, your solicitor and the board itself too, to try to iron out things that are of concern to us still.
Well, a decision's been drafted. Have you had the opportunity for the two of you to speak?
It's got some serious problems, as far as I'm concerned, that we would have to file an appeal if they went forward.
You can, if you want to file an appeal, you can file an appeal. But if you, I guess what I'm saying is, Charlie, if you want to reach out to me and talk about your concerns, and I'll explain to you why your concerns are not valid, we can have that conversation. I've offered you many times to give me a call, and you haven't. So, like I said, it's up to the board. If you want to take the additional time, given the fact that the applicant has given us a time extension, you can do that, or you can act on it as written this evening. It's up to the board.
I'm in favor of taking the time to give everybody a chance to communicate.
Well, I would ask, do you have intention of reaching out to Pat? Because we've gone this route for quite some time, but we haven't heard from him.
I will be happy to talk to you, but probably not tomorrow, but.
Okay,
That's fine.
all right, then I'm happy with tabling it.
And I would also make a motion, just to get it on the record, to accept the waiver that we were given, so thank you. So motion for the time waiver, a second. Any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
And this is proposed to be on your agenda for, you said April 10th.
April 10th would be our next meeting, so that's when it's proposed to be on the agenda, and then that gives both solicitors time to communicate.
Thank you. The next item on my report is the Blue Ridge Cable right-of-way agreement for 11 Pondside Drive. I previously provided my track changes to the right-of-way agreement to Blue Ridge. My understanding is they forwarded it on to their legal department. I still have not heard back, so there's nothing to act on at this point.
Okay.
Thank you. Unless I think I have a couple other probably comments on items later on in the agenda, unless there's something else from the board at this time, that's all I have.
No, I don't have anything.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pat. Engineers report.
All right, just one item for discussion tonight, no action required on it. The Winona Lakes Emergency Access Road, just letting the board know that Winona Lakes Property Owners Association and their engineer have submitted kind of preliminary and conceptual construction plans for a new emergency access road, roughly in the area of Curview Court to Norman Court. This is being initiated because there's, I guess, a bridge within Winona Lakes that is in need of some repair work. And when that is out of commission, they want this additional access in place for residents, with the thought being once the bridge work's done, that this can remain as like a emergency access. Our office is currently reviewing it. We'll be in conversation with Public Works as well to just give them some feedback, and we'll be in touch with Winona Lakes Property Owners Association over the next couple of weeks about next steps on that. So again, no action tonight, but just wanted to provide that update.
Thank you. Yes, I see.
I have a question. How do you know that you have the approval of all of the property owners for that road?
Certainly, yeah, we're gonna have to obviously go through that process with them. That is one of the questions I have for them, for next week. At this point, we literally got the initial set of plans like a week ago. So at this point, we were kind of looking just at design, aspects of it. But certainly, any type of easement or right of way acquisition for that would need to be acquired from any of the property owners that are to be affected.
And how can one get a copy of the paperwork that you got?
It's a great question. I would think that's probably subject to right to know.
Yeah, once I have it, but I don't have anything.
Okay, all right, I can make sure a copy gets over to you. Yep. So if you wanna call the township, submit a right to know request, you'll be able to get it.
We don't have it. We don't have it.
You will.
They communicated with the engineer.
Yeah, but I will forward a copy so they have it as well.
Thank you.
Yep. Quick question, are you one of the property owners that would be crossed? Okay. Are you planning to stay for the entire meeting?
Yes.
Okay, you wanna talk after the meeting a little bit?
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? Okay, moving on to old business. Resolution 03-2025-1, which is the Act 537 sewage facilities. I believe you have an update on that also.
Yes, this has been a topic on prior meeting agendas. This is related to the proposed transfer of ownership of the Monroe Sewer Company, all of their treatment and collection facilities over to PA American. The township had a review period previously, had offered some comments in response to that Act 537 plan update. They had then responded prior to our last meeting to those full comments, two of which the supervisors found satisfactory. The two that required further conversation was related to assurances that the property owners that are connected to Monroe sewer system were adequately notified. Since their response indicated that it was only published in the Pocono Record and that there were assurances that Monroe and PA American would be giving them notices prior to closing, but not necessarily that had not happened yet to date, was basically how it was worded. And then the second item was related to financial security, basically to cover the township. Something that happens very often with private treatment facilities, just in case operation and maintenance responsibilities fell through and the township were required to step in. Since the last meeting, myself and Pat have had a correspondence with representatives for PA American. There's an email from Aaron Fuhrer from American Water that should have been in the packets that provided an overview on the additional notifications that they had previously provided, one being Monroe Sewer Company in, I guess, December of 2023, along with their bills, had sent notifications to all connected property owners, making them aware of this, and the intention to sell to PA American, and giving an overview of, because this is a PUC regulated entity, that there's additional representation for the citizens, that fair representation of that path.
Yeah, additional oversight.
Advocacy groups, I would say, on behalf of the residents that are a part of this process as well. So they were making us aware that there was additional notification that's happened beyond what was represented in their prior response. Regarding the second item, they indicated that given that they're PUC regulated, they provided some additional, I guess, legal background, basically stating that the risk to the township is not the same as it would be for, say, a smaller non-PUC regulated treatment facility for, I don't know, a small residential community, you know, and so the need for financial security is not the same as it would be in those cases. So I guess with those two responses in mind, and Pat, I'll let you obviously fill in any gaps you think I maybe missed there. I guess the motion for tonight would be to adopt resolution number 03-2025-1, with the condition of, Pat giving further review to the legal citations that were provided by PA American regarding the PUC regulation and how that pertains to operation and maintenance going forward.
Yeah, I think that's a fair explanation and good plan to go forward. I don't necessarily disagree with the fact that those maintenance and operation agreements and the posting of financial security typically is a requirement associated with the smaller community systems when they can get conveyed from entity to entity. And that Pennsylvania American is a little different. And I haven't had a chance, I got this afternoon, I'll look at the citations that was provided to me by the counsel for PA American. But I'm okay with you if you want to proceed with approving and executing the resolution, just subject to me reviewing what they provided, the citations they provided before releasing the resolution. To confirm that I agree with what they're stating.
So moved.
Second.
Any,
I just wanted to let you know that the PUC approved the sale today,
mhm.
so it is going forward.
Thank you, Charlie. Yeah, there's been a motion and a second. Any other comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Real quick, one more point on that would just be, I'll be in touch, I guess, with Mary Beth Peters, who's their consultant on this, as to who's gonna be sending this to DEP. The next steps are, it has to go to DEP. They have a 120-day review period. They can give themselves another 60-day extension if they need it. So it could be up to 180 days for them to review. But we'll need a original of the resolution, whoever winds up sending it to DEP.
Thank you. Okay, letter B under old business. This is our revitalized Route 209 project. And we had an applicant for the property formerly known as the Dutchman submit something. And it is my understanding that the board, upon reflecting on this some more and revisiting this subject, would be amenable to accepting the Dutchman into the grant program, since the applicant was preliminarily awarded $4,239.50. And upon finding a clause in the resolution that established the grant program that provides for the applicant to use someone at a slightly higher quote, but they are not going to be awarded any more funds. Is that correct? Did I summarize that correctly?
Correct.
All right, so with that, I would make a motion to award this applicant 50%. Actually less than 50% of what the lowest bid was, which is less than what they spent. So the motion would be to award the applicant $4,239.50, which was preliminarily approved and represents 50% of the cost of the lowest quote of their proposed project.
Second.
Any comments or questions?
I would only, just for consistency, say that we are preliminary awarding it rather than a full award.
We did that already.
I'm saying for this amount, for this project.
I'm sorry, you lost.
In other words, we don't give full approval until we get the documentation at the end.
That's correct.
Okay,
It's a reimbursement grant.
right.
So, the applicant would have to provide all the necessary paperwork,
Mhm.
and receipts and proof of payment, because it's a reimbursement
Right.
grant.
That's
This
my only
is
comment.
approving what the award would be. All
Yeah.
right, so motion second, any other comments or questions? Yes, sir.
The Dutchman is a business, or that's the name of the grant?
The grant program is the revitalized 209 grant program, but the property itself is in between.
Across the street from McDonald's.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
On,
and Tractor Supply, actually across the street from Tractor Supply.
oh, okay. I don't know, we're,
It's in between the gas station
And the nail salon.
and yeah, and the nail salon. So we live in an area where we say, remember where the old Friendlies used to be?
Right.
If you went past it, you've gone too far. All right, motion second. Any other comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and that brings us to new business. Resolution 03-2025-5, partially waiving the appropriation limitation on the use of EMS tax revenue for the purpose of paying salaries, benefits, or other compensation. This is something that is again appearing on our agenda. We have asked the solicitor to prepare this resolution, which now allows EMS companies to submit bills up to 75% instead of 50%. The law previously was 50%. So we are following suit with Smithfield Township and allowing EMS companies to appropriate up to 75% of the tax dollars received towards salaries.
Second.
Any comments or questions?
Appreciated. 75% of the budget is the people. So seems I can't add on people to the hospital.
Any other comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And here's pen bid again.
I don't.
Authorized pen bid advertising and acceptance of bids for the Freightliner.
I think that should be municipal.
Yeah, municipal.
Okay. Okay, so we're selling this
Correct. We're
triax.
selling a 2006 triaxle, correct?
Okay,
So I'll make that motion to advertise and accept bids for the 2006 Freightliner, which will be placed on municipal bid with a minimum bid of $8,000.
Second.
Any comments or questions?
How many miles are on it, huh?
Anybody?
Did we
No,
buy it new?
no,
No? Oh, okay.
No.
Don't worry about it.
I am curious how many miles are on it. A motion, a second. Any other comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Make a motion to authorize the sale of the 2001 International Bucket Truck, also on municipal bid. And the 2006 tandem Mack Granite. Oh, wait. That's also, no, I take that back. The 2006 Freightliner is the one we're purchasing.
That's what, okay, yeah, that's what Rachel said. But we want to vote it. I just-
Let's cancel that motion and all that stuff.
Okay, so you're rescinding your motion.
Right.
I'll second that. All in favor of rescinding our motion? Aye.
Aye.
So
So
can
now
you
we're
walk
authorizing-
us through this,
Yes.
what this is now?
So, okay, so the 2006 Freightliner is a triaxle, which the township does not own a triaxle. The thinking is that, with a triaxle, obviously it's 3 times bigger than a single. So when we're paving or hauling, one person can triple amount of productivity. Which is pretty beneficial when you're, particularly during paving. This Freightliner is for sale. We have a specification that we're gonna put out there to see if we can get better pricing for a similar or the same truck. That's why we're advertising, or the motion is to advertise.
Okay, so we're making a motion to advertise for specs to buy this?
Correct.
So it's like an RFP.
Correct.
And, I'm just curious, how much do they go for?
Probably around $60,000 or $70,000. We budgeted, I believe, 100,000.
For this
So
piece of equipment?
that's correct.
Okay, and then, so motion in a second, I'm just curious, where is this going to be advertised?
Open a record,
Open a record, yeah.
and it's specific.
Okay,
They
no,
are
I'm
asking
just
for a
because it,
specific truck. So there's.
no, because first it said pen bid,
No,
and
no,
then
no,
we
no.
said municipal,
No,
so
no.
now, okay.
No.
All right. All right, motion second, any other comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye. Okay, so now, I make a motion to authorize the sale of the 2001 bucket truck with a minimum of $8,000 and the 2006 tandem on municipal bid with a minimum of $10,000.
Second.
Okay, comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We got one more.
All right, make a motion to authorize advertising and acceptance of bids on pen bid for our FOB and seal coat. Estimate.
Second.
Any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And now we're up to, economic development. So, we had a vacancy on here due to somebody moving, to a different state. And the Economic Development Committee had a very hard time choosing between 3 applicants. But they made a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors, and that is in your packets. So I respectfully ask the board, and make a motion to appoint Ashley Tackett to fulfill the vacancy on the Economic Development Committee.
I'll second.
A motion and a second. Any comments or questions?
But what's Ashley's credentials?
She, hold on a second, I have the
Has a
whole
bachelor's degree
application.
from Walsh University.
No, I have a cheat sheet.
She's a director at Camelback.
And what's the biggest budget she ever saw?
I don't think the budgets have anything to do with her position, what she's volunteering for, but
She's volunteering for economics.
correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So I want to know how she does with money. So her budgeting skills would tell me if she's.
She doesn't handle money.
We don't handle money.
It has nothing to do with money like this.
Right.
Budgeting, that's economics too. So does she have any skills? She works in Camelback doing what? That's what
She has, well, my cheat sheet is a background in nonprofit work with budgeting and marketing
Okay, so that's
for that in her nonprofit. I don't have her whole letter, I just have this
Sounds good.
bit.
Budgeting and
So I
marketing.
can pull that up also, but I made myself a cheat sheet because, you know.
Oh, that's what I want to hear.
So there's that,
I mean,
she,
she worked at a resort, I want to hear budgeting. marketing,
right,
but
yeah, no,
it's
she,
economics.
We were just given
she's-
this today, so.
She supports classroom funding at adoptaclassroom.org. She does work for them, so she does that. She was formerly with the National Inventors Hall of Fame and promoting innovation for that. And we felt she was skilled in outreach and engagement through cold calling and networking. So we have members of the Economic Development Committee here. Does that accurately represent, or, I mean, the committee interviewed her as well as the other 2 applicants and then forwarded their recommendation to the supervisors. So, but we have folks sitting here. So, Ed, Beverly, would you like to add anything? Putting you on the spot?
We don't have anything in economic development, it's nothing to do with money as far as that what you're thinking. What we do, we make plans for what we would like to see the community do, how we're improving 209, things in that nature. And being that she had the background in a resort arena, we thought maybe she could help us with developing certain things.
But we are encouraging the Economic Development Committee to, because you're almost ready to go out canvassing. The Economic Development Committee canvasses for the Revitalize Committee and visits all these businesses up and down 209 with this grant and saying that, you know, did you ever think of doing, because it would be a conflict of interest for the Revitalize Committee to do it. So the Economic Development Committee tries to, so that's a way to have a subcommittee or a task force to utilize the two other very qualified applicants too. It was a tough choice.
It was yes, it was a very tough choice, because one of the applicants, she's very involved also on different levels too. So it was tough, and then, yes.
And the current business owner.
We're trying to expand that.
And the committee was asking if they could expand the Economic Development Committee by 2, so they could accept all of them.
Right.
So. Any other comments or questions? So there was a motion and a second. Any other questions? No. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay, and that brings us to the Pocono Mountain Visitors Bureau grant application. So normally, well, in a perfect world, you would create your grant application and then the board discusses it and then it is approved at a meeting prior to submitting the grant. What we have done in the past, because of timelines, is submitted the grant and then ratified that at a future meeting. So this is due next Friday. And I thought I'd start the ball rolling by placing it on the agenda tonight to at least make folks aware that there's discussion in the township of submitting for this grant application again. So not everything is perfected yet as far as pricing, but the sewer department would like to apply for this grant for the beautification of its pump stations that are along 209 and possibly include other areas that the township owns along 209. So that was the thought, and we can certainly discuss it more at our workshop, which is tomorrow morning. So that's all that's there, just notifying the public. Yes, sir.
Back to resolution 3/2025, the first one, the business, the tax disbursement.
Yes.
Whoever reads that every year we'll have to request that this be renewed.
Yes. The way the statute reads is, I think it says annually. For calendar year or something to that effect, for the waiver.
Okay. So letter F, is there any other comment before we conclude this evening? Any other input?
No.
Yes.
No,
I'm sorry, I saw, yeah.
No, that's okay.
No,
Well, how much
just making-
how much would the grant possibly be?
$20,000.
So yeah, and they require a $20,000 match. So, they require a 50% match of whatever you're applying for. You can apply for up to $20,000. So the sewer department had put aside like $50,000 in the budget when we created the budget this year for doing something with its pump stations on 209 and things that the township owns, to bring it up to snuff.
We did this last year, where we hired somebody and we beautified 209, which you saw they were picking up garbage throughout the whole summer. They did plantings, they did mulch in some of the intersections. So the thinking is that we would again do that again this year, improve the entire corridor. I mean, I think that it was very successful last year. I think it was infectious that even businesses. I mean, I drove down 209 today, and quite honestly, it's not, you know, the garbage is not what we've seen in prior years. So I think there's a bit more pride in ownership, and I think there's a bit more attentive to the garbage by businesses, and if we can contribute to that, you know, as a government, you know, that's what they, you know, at least businesses see that we're reinvesting back into the corridor as well.
So it's yearly, it's all pretty.
We hope to. I mean, we budgeted for it, you know, knowing that, I mean, hoping that this grant would come alive again this year, which it has. This is the 4th year that they're doing it. And again, it was very successful last year, so there's no reason not to do it again this year.
Don, you had
Yeah,
your,
a number of years ago, the township had been sponsoring a series of meetings, one in the spring, one in the fall, with township officials, including the zoning officer and others, and outside speakers, with some of the directors and managers of HOAs to talk about common problems and townships where brought in people with common solutions and got to know other HOA leaders. And Holly was organizing those, and it just kind of stopped, and I didn't know why it stopped. I thought it was productive and useful. Has anybody thought to get it going again, or was there a good reason not to do it?
well, it's funny that you brought that up because, well, you used to do the HOA meetings and we started doing new resident meetings. So when we noticed that first we developed a package. So when we saw the list of people buying, because we have a move in, move out ordinance, and every time you move in or move out, you need to get a permit for that and it triggers inspections. So when we got that list and saw a couple of years, there were like 700 people or 800 people, houses that were sold in the township. And we thought that's a good chunk of people that don't know where things are or could use a welcome wagon. So we put together a welcome package. Then we decided we would try to have those meetings twice a year with new resident welcomes. And we did that with the zoning officer and all of that. And now yours is not the first request. We've received other requests of having the HOA meetings again. We thought that perhaps it would be a good idea to combine those two things. Now, we didn't do resident meetings last year because the employee that did them was out was out for, I think, 3 months, 3 months or so, and it just took a lot to catch up with that. But we plan to do that this year. So that's a good point. We had thought maybe we could combine the two things.
Well, the subject matter for new homeowners is stuff that's there already. And the subject matter for the people who run the HOAs would be, well, we know what's here now. What should we be doing that's better or more? We need to know what we don't already know. So there may be a little overlap, but the knowledge base is much different. And I just thought maybe nobody else cared either. I don't know if it's been brought up at all.
I brought it up.
Oh, good. Well, that's 2. That's enough. The majority of them.
I brought it up. I volunteered even to help.
So I think there's a motion and a second.
Yeah.
I know that things were moved on to other responsibilities.
You seconded,
I don't know if
right?
anybody has picked that
Made a
up.
motion
Oh,
and a
no,
second.
there was other folks on the western side of the township that also requested that we do this again too. So-
Yeah, because we felt it kind of died down a little bit. Remember when we first started, with more people that attended.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, I think the attendance wasn't that great and maybe we start not to,
Yeah,
but
I mean,
I thought it was good.
Yeah,
I thought
I thought it was good.
Well, it did run into COVID. Did it? That wasn't.
Yeah, I think that might have been
Then
what
we had,
instigated the stall.
I read a lot of information out of it. It was a lot of sharing, and everything, things that we didn't know about, and, so I think we should start.
It might have, some of the HOAs had dealt with the same problems
all
and
the
found
time.
that there was a good solution.
I agree.
And they shared it.
Yes, exactly.
I've been to a lot of meetings like this, where people with the same responsibilities get together and talk about how they handle them. And my theory and practice is steal good ideas shamelessly. If somebody else is doing something and it works and it's good and you didn't think of it, now you're gonna do it. And that's a good way to live.
Well,
life.
Well, that's another thing.
No, it's good too.
the other thing that'll help too is that the person the employee whose responsibility it was to do HOA meetings, it will be hired soon, so cross your fingers. So then we'll have someone to take care of that, to
Okay,
help with that.
Work on that.
Yeah,
yeah, work on it.
yeah.
I thought they were very helpful. And just to get to talk to people who have the same kinds of problems
Yes.
and issues.
Garbage, all that kind of stuff
Mhm.
discussed.
Okay, great. Any other public comment or questions? Anybody? All right, I think I heard a motion to adjourn.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I
Okay, great.